You are live.
All right, guys. Hi. I'm a little early because I have to head to a doctor's appointment. And so I need to be there and I need to leave at 10, which is usually when I come on live. So I am just going to get these started. And then what I'm going to do, since the dough has to rest, is I'm going to come back to you and show you afterwards because it has to rest for an hour. So a little early. Hopefully you guys can still tune in. And if not, if you're tuning in a little bit late and you're coming on at my normal time, which is 10 Pacific, you can just rewind and watch this anytime. So you're good. All right, so I'm making the Everything Bagels from Eat What You Love because we're about to head up to the mountains. Actually, just Asher and I on a fun little mom-son trip, and so I thought it would be nice to take these. Don't interrupt, excuse me. I thought it would be fun to take these up. So I just put the coconut milk into a saucepan, and you want to get it to 110 degrees. You don't have to use a thermometer, but the reason why I have a temperature in there is because we are using baker's yeast in this recipe. It's what I had to use to finally get the actual flavor of bagels. Everything else just tasted like muffins in the gluten-free and grain-free world, and I really wanted a bagel. And so yeast needs to have the milk kind of be at a certain temperature to activate it. Really, the way, if you don't have a thermometer, the way to test it is kind of like if you were testing a baby bottle. Put it on your wrist. If it doesn't sting or burn, but it's warm, then you're probably fine. If it stings, burns, like too hot, like you wouldn't give it to a baby, let it cool down a little bit. But it does just need to be warm to get the yeast to start activating. So I'm gonna use my thermometer just because we're chatting here and I'm afraid that I'll let it get too hot, which I think it already has. You don't want it to boil. That's another thing to look for. It should not be bubbling or boiling. Yeah, so I'm already at 142 degrees, so we'll let that cool down a little bit. It comes quick. But in the meantime, I have 2 tablespoons finely ground flaxseed. So I want to just put a little note about this out there because I have gotten some questions and comments from some of you guys on both the nut-free lunchbox bread and then also this. And there's one other, the pizza pockets. So we actually grind the flax by hand, just in a clean coffee grinder. I find that it gets it way more finely ground, which helps it absorb a lot of the moisture. Oh, the cookies, cowboy cookies also use that. So just if you buy it at the grocery store and you're noticing like the hulls or you're noticing kind of like half broken down seeds, which most of them are if you buy them pre-ground in a bag, just grind them up again, a food processor, clean coffee grinder. You really want it to be this really nice fine powder that's just gonna give you the consistency that you want, and it's gonna help your doughs all hold together a little bit better. The bagels and the bread are not as much of a problem with that as like the cookies. And the reason being is that the cowboy cookies are egg-free, and we're using that flax to kind of create the same texture consistency as the egg. So you really do want it to absorb a lot of that moisture. I put flax seeds and honey in there, and then I'm also gonna put our yeast. So Bob's Red Mill brand is certified gluten-free. So if you want, go on Amazon or go to your grocery store, look for that one. Is everything okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Just wanna make sure. All right, I'm gonna take my temperature of my coconut milk again really quickly. And I have a feeling I'll be asked, so I'll just talk about this now. Coconut milk was used in this specifically to keep this recipe nut-free, and so they're gluten-free, nut-free, dairy-free, and if you don't want to use coconut milk, you could totally use almond milk or cashew milk. I just like the fat content of this coconut milk because it just helps keep the bagels, they get nice and crispy on the outside, but it helps keep them really moist. I don't want that word. I always try to find something else, but I can't off the top of my head. On the inside. Okay, this is still a little too hot, so.
Taylor on Facebook is wondering, what is your favorite topping to put on the bagel?
Oh, well, we are going to talk about that, Taylor. And actually, while I wait for this to cool down, I'll talk to you about both of these things. So these are everything. Oh, you mean like once they're sliced and cut? Well, I was going to say the everything seasoning, obviously, which is a mixture of onion, garlic, poppy seeds. I do black and white sesame seeds. It's so yummy. And then coarse salt. But it really depends. I really like the Green Valley Organics lactose-free cream cheese. if you can tolerate some dairy. That is dairy, so just beware. If not, the Kite Hill ricotta would be my kind of second best thing. The Kite Hill cream cheese alternatives have a lot of gums and binders in them, so I kind of stay away from those. But the ricotta doesn't have any of that stuff, and it kind of tastes like cream cheese. So that would be, you know, and then I love to make sandwiches out of them. So like turkey and sauerkraut and maybe a little spread of whatever one of those cream cheeses, or smoked salmon and cucumbers. But yeah, I'm kind of just normally just plain. I just like to toast them and put some of that cream cheese on them. They're great. Okay, I think this is probably fine. Let's do the test though. Oh yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Full fat coconut milk, by the way, a can of full fat coconut milk, and you want to shake it up really well if you need to warm it in a bowl. That's always kind of my trick for you guys. Warm it up in a bowl if you need to so that the fat incorporates with the water. You don't want to open the can and just use the solid fat off the top, and you also don't want to just use the kind of opaque water that's at the bottom of the can. So we're just gonna turn our mixer on, not on high, just enough to incorporate the yeast, the honey, coconut milk, and that flax. And the honey, by the way, is in there to feed the yeast. It's not a significant amount, but you do need it to be able to feed the yeast. And it's funny, I read sometimes that the antimicrobial properties of honey could actually kill the yeast, but it works just fine for us, but you need some sort of a sweetener. I think you could very well use maple syrup if you wanted to, but I don't think like your powdered sweeteners would work. So, and actually I take that back because a lot of pizza like restaurants use honey in their crust, and I think that not only for flavor, but also because of the yeast. So all you want to do is just mix it enough, even if you just take a spatula like this and mix it up. And then you want to start to see your yeast bubble a little bit. It's not going to be anything crazy, but it's going to start kind of almost like when you're cooking pancake batter and you start to see those little bubbles, and that's kind of when you know to flip them. Similar here, you're going to start to see some little bubbles kind of on the top of the surface, and they'll pop and they will kind of do their thing, but that means that your yeast is fresh. That means that your coconut milk is warm enough, and that it's starting to activate. So you leave that there for just a few minutes, and then we're gonna add everything else. And since we're gonna leave that there, I'm trying to kind of be good on time. I'm actually gonna just start mixing stuff in another bowl, and then I'll pour it in. Let me just grab it.
As you are grabbing that, we have someone on Instagram that is wondering if you were to send these for a school lunch.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Hold on, go again.
If you were to send these for a school lunch, does it hold its shape until lunchtime?
They absolutely hold their shape. For everything. You can like load them up with condiments and they'll be fantastic. They won't get soggy at all. I do recommend toasting them. I think that they just taste better, and then they won't absorb that, because they do have coconut flour in them. They can sometimes absorb a little bit of the liquid, so like from your mayonnaise or something like that. So toast them first, in my opinion. I just think it brings out the flavor and the texture a little bit better. But yeah, they'll hold up for, you could make a bagel sandwich, like I would say at least 2 days in advance, and they would be fine. And then also we freeze a lot of these, so we'll make either a single or double batch, and put half of them in the freezer, and then you can just pull them out. If you actually pre-slice before you put them in the freezer, you can pull them out, just one half of each, and put them straight into the toaster, and then you don't have to worry about defrosting them, which is kind of nice.
We also have someone wondering, what should they do if they can't tolerate yeast? Do they just leave it out?
Yeah, so there is substitution advice in here. It has extra baking powder. And, the texture is definitely a little different. They're not as light and airy, and they don't have that same yeasty flavor. But if you can't tolerate yeast, they still will work. It's the same with the bread. It comes out a little bit more squatty, but they definitely will work. So I put my eggs, my ghee, which if you want to keep this totally 100% dairy-free, ghee is lactose and casein-free, so depending on why you stay away from dairy, you might be able to tolerate it. But you could do olive oil, you could do avocado oil, you could do palm shortening. So those are some of your options if you can't tolerate the ghee. And then I've got apple cider vinegar, and that's just going to help react with our baking soda to kind of just continue to give them a little bit more air bubbles along with our yeast. What am I doing next? Sorry, guys. This is a bad time. We always have yard work going on when I come live, and so you're always going to hear the leaf blowers. I guess it'll just be like part of the show, you know? It's our calling card. You know that you're watching Tuesdays with Danielle when you hear that go on. Okay, so we've got some air bubbles going on. We're doing good. I'm going to just add this now. We've got our ghee and our eggs going in, and then we'll add all of our flours and our salt and our baking soda right after that. Whoop! Sorry, thought that was a lock. Just medium speed. Doesn't need to be anything fast.
We also have someone wondering if you can use grass-fed butter in place of ghee.
Yes, it would taste delicious. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, you could. I haven't tried it. I'm thinking that if I were to test it, I would probably do. So it calls for a quarter cup. I would start with 3 tablespoons and just see, because just the fat content's a little bit different. But otherwise, I think you'd be fine. Okay, so because we're doing this nut-free, we've got arrowroot, which is what helps keep their shape and also helps make them kind of crispy on the outside. And then we have coconut flour, which is going to help give them a little bit more of that kind of chewy, cakey consistency. And then sea salt and our baking soda, baking powder, actually in this one, sorry. Make sure you get all that out of the bottom. You don't want to waste any of it. You need it. All of it. Literally all of it. Hold on. I'm like, there's like a good 1/8 of a teaspoon stuck down there. I'm getting it out. You don't want to, with baking, you don't want to mess with your amounts here. Like, this stuff was carefully tested and retested to get the perfect consistency for you guys. So follow the instructions, follow the amounts. I don't do things by weight because a lot of you guys have told me you don't keep kitchen scales. So, but that's obviously like the most, oh, see, and there's even a little bit of coconut flour in the bottom and all of that. That is definitely like the most precise way to bake, is by using a scale, but I know that that's not as easy for a lot of you guys. Okay, get this going here. Towel. So I have to say, this was probably the most frequently posted photo during our May Eat What You Love Cookbook Club. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, we did a really fun thing where for the whole month of May, if you made anything from this book and you posted a photo with the book cover and what you made, and then kind of shared like you would if you were in a book club, where you kind of shared your thoughts on the recipe, if you had any trouble with it, if your kids liked it, if you'd make it again, any tips, if you changed anything, that kind of thing. Which was really fun. It created a super fun community. It also was really fun for me to see what you guys were making, and then for other people who kind of clicked on the hashtag to encourage them to maybe try something that they wouldn't have or that they might have flipped past. And so it's been really, really fun. It's over now. We also had some really awesome prizes for anybody who participated. And we announced the winners yesterday, and so I'm going to do it again. So if you don't have a copy of Eat What You Love, grab it now, because I'm going to start again in the month of July. And I'm going to pick, I think this time I'm going to pick a theme, whether it's like summer snacks or breakfast or desserts or something like that. But I think the bagels were the most frequently made recipe and the most frequently posted. It was really fun to see how many of you guys made them, and so many of you guys made them for the first time and then went through them so quickly that you went back and made them again and again, which is awesome. So they're really, really great to keep in the freezer, especially for busy school mornings or for summer when you're just, wanting to give your kids something quick. Make an egg sandwich with it with some, bacon or something like that. It's delicious. Okay, so that's it for that first step. Now we are going to let the yeast kind of do its thing and sit for about an hour. So you don't need to proof it like overnight like you would with a gluten-filled dough. Really just the hour is enough time to kind of not only let the coconut flour absorb some of the liquid and for your dough to get a little bit less loose. I mean, it is like a very thick cake batter consistency, but it lets the yeast kind of activate and start to work its magic. I will caution you, don't let it sit for more than an hour. And this is the same for the pizza crust that's in this book. Really, the hour is like kind of, you want it exactly timed, because otherwise the coconut flour almost absorbs too much and you kind of end up with a little bit of a drier dough that's difficult to get in to your bagel pan or for the pizza crust to roll out. And it'll end up kind of being lumpy. So set a timer. Don't do this unless you have time to come back and actually get them into the oven. And then I would start preheating your oven maybe like 30 minutes into the timer, so that as soon as your timer goes off, the oven's already ready and you can just pop them straight in. So I will come back in about an hour or so and show you guys just getting them into this tray. By the way, if you want this silicone bagel tray, you can use it for donuts too, but I found it on Amazon, and we'll put a link in the comments, but there's also a link on the recipe page in the book. But it makes the biggest sized bagels, donuts that I have ever found. Most of the ones you buy are like really little, and you kind of get these like thin ones. This actually gives you these like good full-sized bagels, and so we use this for every time that we make them. So okay guys, I'll be back. We're gonna let this thing work its magic. So see you guys later.